Today's webinar includes 4 different projects that have been supported by Regenerosity, a sister organisation to Re-Alliance, all of them led by women, which we found very exciting and very wonderful to work with them through this journey. We've met together in peer learning circles once a month for the past 18 months, and there's been a lot of peer learning, peer sharing and development during that period. We don't have long, so I'm going to hand over to our first presenter to introduce her project and herself. Preeti from Navdanya, go ahead and do share your screen.
Hello, everyone, and a good day, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. So I'm Preeti, and I am with Navdanya organization, which is founded by Dr. Vandana Shiva and a couple of her friends long back, more than 33 years back. And I'm an ecologist there. I've been in touch with, working with Navdanya since 2012 when I was doing my doctoral, when I began my doctoral research. So we've all heard about Navdanya's work and Dr. Vandana Shiva's work. So here we are going to focus on a particular area where we've been working together with Regenerosity team and in Maharashtra, in the Vidarbha region, which is affected by mass farmer suicides due to the GMO BT cotton, which was introduced illegally long back ago. The program we are doing together, the one with Regenerosity, is called Seeds of Hope, Gardens of Hope. So, and it's being done in the place, in this region called Vidarbha, which is the northeastern region of Maharashtra state in India. And so this particular place has been, it's a drought area, and it's been notorious for largest number of farmer suicides in India. And it grows cotton. Traditionally, there used to be different varieties of cotton along with different types of food crops which were grown. And later on, we'll see what has happened to that place. So speaking about cotton, first to discover cotton, after coming to India, I forgot this guy's name. Okay, anyway, so cotton was first found in India by the travelers which were there. And they were amazed at the quality of muslin which was made. And that's why they saw that there were 8 different varieties and subspecies and varieties of cotton. And you can see here, there's a map of India showing what are the different varieties which are found in different areas. So these are like combinations, some of them are crossbred and things like that. There are some cotton species which have different colors. So you don't need to dye them either. They have natural colors too. So there were these different varieties, and I'm sure there were many more, but then the recorded ones shows there are 8 different varieties of cotton. And we see that 60 million Indians rely upon cotton cultivation or its processing, its manufacturing, its export, etc. for their livelihood. And around 25% of the cotton which is grown across the world is from India. And in India, although in record it shows around 2001, 2002 that GMO BT cotton was introduced, but it was illegally introduced in India in 1998 by Monsanto, and obviously through corrupt ways. And the motive of a BT cotton variety was to get rid of the bollworm infestation which was there. And now this thing was actually highlighted by the multinational companies like Monsanto, and then the other companies which came in collaboration with them. So we'll have a quick look of what happened in this area. So the trend of BT cotton failure shows that BT cotton production grew from 2003-2005, and actually why this increase was seen was because the area under which BT cotton was grown was increasing rapidly, and it was not that BT cotton production increased. It was the area which increased, and obviously it will show more production. And with all of that, if you superimpose that particular graph with this graph, you can see that the number of deaths which happened through farmer suicide also increased around, started increasing around the same time. And the main reason for it was the cotton seed prices. So traditionally, farmers grew their cotton through their own saved seeds, native seeds. And at the most, if a farmer does not have, he had to pay not more than 5 to 10 rupees per kilogram to buy cotton. But now at this moment, the cost of 1 kilogram of BT cotton seed is almost 3,000 rupees, a little more than that. So, the percentage of increase in that amount is really high. And what happened was, when GMO was brought, farmers were lured into thinking that their production would increase because bollworms would be controlled completely, and farmers stopped saving their own seeds. And that's how seeds weren't available, and farmer had to, or they were forced to actually buy these seeds from the market. And you can see the number of suicides which happened. And there's this heart-wrenching poem written by a farmer before he actually committed suicide. So he was like, "We are like calves, we are dumb, hungry calves. We tend to cows, but thieves walk away with the milk and the curd. And we sweat on our fields, and we cultivate pearls, but our children go hungry." So the major things that came up because of introduction of the GMO BT cotton was hunger, malnutrition, seeds were lost, and farmers were displaced from their land. Their land was completely damaged. And when you look into the depth, it was actually seen that the average cotton which was produced, the higher the quantity of the cotton, lower number of suicides. Where more cotton, when it was produced by few number of farmers, you could see more suicides actually. So until date, there are over 400,000. There are the latest one being in 2021. In November itself, there were 1,056 suicides recorded of farmers in the Western Vidarbha region alone. So Vidarbha is into two places, it's Eastern and Western. So in the Western itself, over 1,000 suicides were seen. So cotton is not only displacing people and also causing death through suicide. So what is it that all of this is, what is the actual issues that BT cotton is creating? So it did not actually increase. The claim saying that the production increased actually did not increase. But as I said, the amount of area, the extent of the area was increased. And so even if BT cotton was for bollworms could be controlled, but some of them actually got resistant. And then other pests took over. So if you look at the ecology of nature, when you suppress something, something else takes its place. So that's the biggest menace which happened. And then farmers had to start spraying other pesticides. And insects keep getting, or smaller animals keep getting resistant faster than the larger ones. And that's how secondary and tertiary infestations happen. So resistant individuals multiplied, and there was increase in number of the secondary pests. So we also see that because insects increased in number, the amount of pesticide which had to be sprayed actually increased. And in 2017-18, there were mass pesticide poisoning among farmers. And I actually personally interviewed many of them. So looking at all of this, I mean, only half the news comes out, and farmers aren't reached out well. And half the time they are lured by the multinationals, and there is so much of confusion around. But then Navdanya, for the past more than 30 years, we've been working with the farmers here in Vidarbha region, and we try to go through all this research which is happening, or research which people are doing, but it isn't getting published, and we try to get it to the farmers. And it was actually shown that by research that cotton production is not affected by bollworms or any kind of pest, but mostly it is affected by the amount of rainfall which happens. And since Vidarbha is a drought area, rainfall obviously becomes erratic sometimes. And with climate change, it's just worsening. So the whole picture started becoming clear in front of the farmers, that with Navdanya's help, that the multinationals, the BT cotton seed companies, are actually fooling the farmers. And you can see here very well, the area under which cultivation is happening remains constant, the yield goes down, and the incomes go down, but the pesticide and the fertilizer costs keep increasing. And this is one of the latest publications from this year itself. So we've been working with lots of partners over the last 30 years, and sometimes we work by ourselves also, because you don't have funds all the time. But then, and this time we have Regenerosity, the Regenerative, the Regenerosity team with us, who helped us conduct a lot of trainings and things. So we've had trainings of 50 farmers, and these farmers actually went to their villages and, told what they attended, how they were inspired by the work which Navdanya is doing. Because the national team actually went and met these farmers in a meeting. And then they contacted the local farmer facilitators. So these are also farmers. So there are farmer to farmer discussions and trainings happening. And they actually held, every month they had meetings. Sometimes there were 5 farmers, sometimes there would be 10 farmers, sometimes more than 30 farmers would come. And, these farmers would call the facilitators once in a month and approach a new group to give them more information, generate more awareness, and to have more farmers transition into regenerative organic farming. So besides that, we have what will you call it? We had 5 more seed producers in the place, because seed is at dearth in Vidarbha, and we actually need as many seed keepers as possible, because they will at least give those seeds for free to their fellow farmers or sell them at reasonable rates. So we have 5 seed farmers. Of these, 4 are female and 1 is male, and they are also helping other farmers to become seed keepers. Then we have Gardens of Hope and Nutrition, which were created. So 10 women were trained for this throughout the year, and they were also monitored of how they are doing with their gardens and etc. And this particular thing, Gardens of Hope and Nutrition, actually helps the women, particularly the widow, who have lost the bread earner at home, and they have gone through days of hunger. And so they can grow small vegetable plants or fruit plants and have their family fed at least once a day. So this particular thing has been really successful in Vidarbha. Then we've had 25 male and female farmers come to the farm. They trained over 2 seasons of farming on the different techniques and what are the different crop combinations that can be done. And they came all the way to Bij Vidyapeeth, which is Navdanya's organic farm here in Dehradun. And then I spoke about the farmer to farmer local trainers. And then at the end of this work, we had hub meetings at the regional and the national level. So hub meetings are actually to bring the regenerative leaders together for planning, for a participatory plan to be put together to have an organic region, organic Vidarbha by 2030. Similarly, we have national leaders, regenerative leaders come together for a national plan. And at the regional level, we had school teachers, lawyers, farmers, policy makers. We also had people like the leaders, local leaders from the panchayats. And all of them had different opinions. For example, like schools could encourage gardens of hope for children under the schemes which government has, like midday meals, and also they could grow their own food and feed the kids. So this way the kids are encouraged to actually take the message of organic farming home. And then getting together farmers who are experimenting or who actually truly believe in organic farming, regenerative farming, and having more seed banks, not in form of structures, but actually in form of many more people who save their own seeds even at home level. And then setting examples by different farmers. And also there are some farmers who are rich or economically doing good, and they can actually take risks of doing experiments on their farm.
Hello everyone, my name is Duhita. First of all, it's so nice to see so many people here. Thank you for joining us and listening to our stories. I am here on behalf of the Timbaktu Collective, and as a part of the Regenerosity project, we conducted 2 main activities. One was growing a Miyawaki forest, and the other is to see how we can add value to wet farm produce that often tends to go to waste after just one day on the shelf. So this is a short introduction to Timbaktu. I don't want to go too much into it, but for those of you who are interested, you can visit the website, www.timbaktucollective.org, or there's also an Instagram page and a Facebook page. But to tell you in a short bit, The collective started about 32 years ago, and it's located in rural Andhra Pradesh, which is south of India. And the approach that Timbaktu Collective has taken is to work in all areas of a rural community. So they work with women, children, people with disability, people who don't have land, landless laborers, and also natural regeneration of the region, organic farming. So the Regenerosity project that we took up comes under the organic farming aspect of the collective. So when we go into why we project, the idea was to work with organic farmers that Timbaktu Collective is already working with, and to create, first of all, learn ourselves how to create a Miyawaki intensive forest. Into this further as we go along, what is a Miyawaki forest, and to also create a center where we again have the expertise to teach the local farmers value. And the two main activities are these, but it so happened that as we started working in this project, a third activity became more a part of the project, which is the growing of organic vegetables, because we had to supply these organic vegetables to the value addition center. Look at the context of the region. The organization in a very dry and arid region. The farmers here really suffer drought. And as Preeti spoke just before me, chemical farming, GMO crops is the standard here. And Timbaktu Collective has been working now for 30 years. And so now there's a good base of organic farmers who are very and very happy with organic farming. And so for us, it was a very easy way to this project. So why we wanted to do a Miyawaki forest, the addition of wet farm produce, is because if you look at the market for vegetables in the region, it fluctuates a lot, and it's huge risk for the local farmers to grow vegetables. So a lot of the farmers here grow only or grains, and so what happened is that their nutrition also has reduced. They don't grow any vegetables. It's a huge risk for them, and even if they grow, there are times when they just have to throw away like truckloads of tomatoes or truckloads of other vegetables. So it's a huge risk for them. And the reason why we wanted to do a Miyawaki forest is that so usually Miyawaki forests are done in urban spaces to grow trees in a small area in a very short period of time. And the idea that we had was, why don't we try and grow a Miyawaki forest on the edges of small farmers? That way the farmers don't lose a lot of their land space, and also they have trees on their land, which is unheard of here, because most of the farmers are smallholder farmers. They don't have space to grow trees, and if we tell them to grow trees, they look at us like we're mad. So the idea is, we say, hey, just give us the edges of your farmlands, and we'll show you how to grow a lot of trees in a small area in a short period of time. And the organic farmers now are struggling with biomass, because organic farming requires a lot of biomass to make compost, or even if you need a lot of the ecology, wildlife to come and help you in your organic farming practices. So I don't know how much time I have, but I don't want to get too deep into how we create a Miyawaki forest. But what we did was, we took 50 cents of land, which is half an acre, and we created 14 beds, 25 meters by 3 meters wide, and 3 meters we had to dig into the earth. And the whole idea is that you put a lot of compost, a lot of good material into the soil, and put the mud back into these beds so that it raises to about 1 or 2 feet. And then you mark the beds with a distance of 1.5 feet. So each plant is just 1.5 feet away from the other. So a lot of ecologists are not really happy with this method of a forest. It's not a natural forest because you're telling people to grow trees in a really, really close to each other. But we found it interesting because we are not doing it to regenerate land. I would say that is not something that we would advise, but we wanted to do this in farmers' lands. And so if you look at the picture that I'm showing right now, this is one of the plots after 3 months of planting. So what happens is that the saplings are so close by that they have no other direction to go in but upwards. So they grow really fast. One of the important things we learned from this is that you have to give support sticks to these trees because otherwise they tend to bend because they're so thin. They grow really fast. But this is a mini forest, as you can see here. These saplings were planted 2 months ago, and this is a photograph now. So they grow really fast. And we also had our own nursery, so that this was a huge learning for us as well. So in the 50 cents of land, we planted 3,000 plus saplings. That's a lot of trees. And we also decided that we wanted to grow this nursery ourselves. So we had a nursery for 3,000 saplings. And that was really nice. And so if there's anyone who comes to us and they say, hey, we want to learn about this, how to do a Miyawaki forest, we have from start to finish. We know how to do the nursery and the planting and the maintenance of the plot. So this is the final result after 1 year of planting. It's like a proper wooded area and very thick, huge. It's a forest. And we find a lot of animals coming here very regularly. We're very happy with this. So the second activity is value addition. So as a part of the Regenerosity project, we were able to build a value addition center. This was really, really useful for us because we had a space to actually experiment, and we experimented with over 40 recipes. All the recipes have come from the local women. It was a really interesting time for us, and we've also recorded all the recipes. So that's been a learning for us. And another part of the value addition is also how do we market them? So the local farmers, we can teach them recipes. We can say, hey, you can do this, but as long as they're unable to sell it, it doesn't make sense. So we practiced ourselves on how do we market this? What does a label look like? What is the best bottling method? So we did a lot of this experimentation as well. And all of this experimentation was happening on a farm where we also had a regenerative school of agriculture for the local youth. And the youth also took part in these activities, and they had to grow all the vegetables for the value addition center. So that was a great learning as well. On a farm, if you want to also add value to your vegetables, how do you plan together as a team and ensure that you produce the right amount of vegetables and you don't waste anything? This is our vegetable garden. Do I have more time?
I think 1 more minute.
Okay. I think I'll leave all of this, but I just wanted to show the images from up top. If you can look at this, this is the Miyawaki forest. This is the value addition center, and this is the vegetable plot. And in this slide, I also have all of the learnings and outcomes from our work, which you can look at later. Thank you.
Hello again. So So hi, I'm welcome everyone, and hi, I'm Aparna from Earth4Ever Conservation Foundation, co-founder, and I, along with 4 other fantastic women, including Komal Thakur, who's right here, a permaculture designer. We work in regenerating and restoring the ecology by working with marginal farmers and sharing regenerative and permaculture practices with them. So the region we work in, both in the Tansa region and in RA, these are eco-sensitive zones, and they have a lot of issues in terms of they've lost their topsoils to brick kilns. So there's a lot of burning of weeds and biomass that happens over there. We have very, very harsh summers, very wet monsoons, and most of the farmers in that region follow like monocropping. It's either paddy and then post paddy, just maybe 1 or 2, vegetables, or is all that they grow over there. This has also impacted the local ecology and the health and nutrition also of the local farmers, along with their livelihoods. So this is something we have chosen to address through our practices with the farmers. We set it up in 2019 with a 3-year-old organization. So in 2019, we realized the best way to share our impact with the farmers was working with the farmer directly on his own land. And we set up a 1-acre permaculture demonstration and training farm in the area of Ganeshpuri, Vada in Maharashtra. So you can see the effect of that. The land is very cracked and dry, and this is what it became. It became, within the span of a year, it completely transformed, and it became like a hub and a magnet for us to have workshops with other farmers in the area, where we began then trainings and workshops with both children and another NGO also working in the area called Sukh Bhumi. Which is another NGO also run by women, and we can move. Yeah, so they basically work in the area of health and nutrition in the area, and work with over 1,000 farmers in the region of Vada. So our project with Regenerosity, which started a year back, which was very exciting for us, is to work with the trainers and work with Sukh Bhumi and the marginal farmers to create 10 micro food forests in this region. And this is something that was very different for them, because they are not used to growing trees and vegetables together. This is not something they either, more often than not, land is cleared for farming and not the other way around. So we were literally creating little mini food forests, and that's how the whole project began, with the workshops and the trainings with the team at Sukh Bhumi, and the farmers selected, shortlisted by them. So we have the farmers in Vada, and we have 2 farmers in the RA forest. So we have 8 sites.
So one of our main approaches was, of course, because these farmers are marginal farmers, so to be able to show and to demonstrate to them that they can earn from this plot, and they can definitely get food for the house, which becomes a saving for them also. So what we did for the food forest is that we combined 2 methods. One was we, of course, are following permaculture principles completely. So Clea Chandmal's forest floor way and Ernst Kosch's syntropic agroforestry, we kind of brought together the principles of both of these methods. I'll just take you through the actual process of what we do on ground. So one of the main core elements of the forest floor way is building the rhizosphere, which is the 3 feet of soil where you find the tree's roots mainly. So we, similar to Duhita's way of working also, we really put in a lot of biomass and cow dung and cow urine and a lot of things that will add nutrient value to the soil. We mix in the soil so that we can create a space for the microbes and to bring the soil back to life. In terms of the water harvesting, we do have trenches on the site, which is quite different from a regular syntropic system actually. But the point of these trenches is again to try and build the 3 feet under the ground where you can bring life in for the microbes. And many farmers do resist trenches on their sites because they don't want the space to be wasted. So what we did is we kind of still dug in and made them sunken beds where we could plant in bananas. So it could do the job of also harvesting water as well as still building the rhizosphere for them. Both the systems focus a lot on multi-layer and intensive planting. So each site has about 15 to 17 value trees, which will be like your main fruit trees, and about 70 to 100 trees that are planted just for the biomass. Again, these are all planted at a distance of just 1 foot from each other, so that the biomass trees really build up and you keep pushing that back into the soil. The planting is done according to a high, medium, and low. So it's really intensive, and we make sure that it has, we have trees, we have vegetables, fruits, flowers, medicinal herbs. Another big aspect of it is succession planting, so that the planting is designed in a way that the farmer starts getting a yield from the first 20 days, which is their leafy greens, all the way up to 40 years. So the planting is designed so that they're able to continuously get a harvest from their fields. This is the layout of a syntropic forest, where we have 3 tree beds, 1, 2, and the one right here in the corner, the third one. And in between the tree beds, we have vegetable beds, seasonal and perennial, a mix of both that come and are put into these beds. This was right at the beginning of the plantation. We also plant up the fence with a lot of medicinal herbs and different smells and colors, so that we can take care of the pest management is taken care of through that. Definitely growing your own biomass, like we mentioned earlier. And banana is actually used as a really big biomass plant here, because once we cut the banana and put the stem of the banana on the soil, then that really helps keep in the moisture during the summer months. Mulching is again a part of the system, where all the wastes go back into the beds. The idea is that farmers are really used to fertilizers, so we're trying to bring in this mindset and concept that mulch is fertilizer. So as long as you're putting a mulch back in, you are fertilizing your soil. You don't need any kind of an external input for it. Pruning is a big part of the system, because the pruning not only to give you biomass to add into the soil, but what happens is we do a synchronized pruning. So when you do a big amount of pruning across the entire site at a specific time, the tree roots release a growth hormone, and that growth hormone impacts everything. So then even the vegetables that are fruiting at that point, so it's kind of synchronized to when you're expecting the harvest to come in according to the season, and you prune at that time, and that really gives a major boost to the entire system to be able to give us the fruits, give a really good harvest for the farmers. The farmers have, of course, seed saving is a part of the process also, where we do encourage them to save their seeds so they can reduce their dependency. The impacts that we've seen with the farmers on the sites has been quite amazing. Aparna, you want to take it from here?
Yeah. So you see, you've seen the impact ecologically, of course. You see all sorts of biodiverse fauna, and you can see all of that on the page, and lots of fungi, so mushrooms. That's, you begin to see the soil also regenerate, get repaired, which is one of the biggest changes you see. And of course, the biodiversity attracts all the bees, butterflies, and all the various other fauna that you see. So here's a site, actually. This is one of the farmers, and she's also a trainer with Sukhbhumi. And what was amazing about this particular site is actually, even though she comes, her in-laws are now sort of proper farmers. They had sort of discounted this land and said it's too, nothing can grow on this land. There's too much of stone. It won't work. And they were very, they didn't quite believe that anything would come off this land. So when the food forest was actually created, this is the transformation. You can see that it became from something that seemed impossible to grow on to a completely flourishing food forest. And so much so that they are as much an active, on the field along with her, which is a great thing to see. And they've, that's her mother-in-law, who also, grows and sells this is all the harvest being taken for sale. And they've had a fantastic harvest. So they've had income saving, they've had income generation. Then we see this. This is another one of the farmers again. So where you again see a massive different transformation of their land. And they've also, again, a lot of income saved is income earned. This is at RA Forest. And here again, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. This is another trainer from Sukhbhumi. And the whole idea of working also growing with the trainers is because they are the ones who want to actually take this project out to, they have an outreach of 1,000 women whom they want to also share this system with. So the whole idea of them growing this on their own land and having the experience of it is also so that they can go out and share it more effectively with the other farmers. So here again, you see her mom-in-law. Komal, you want to say that?
Yeah, one of the very sweet things that we found is that with a lot of the farmers was that first it was just one person, and especially with Samta. This is Samta. She's part of the Sukhbhumi team, and like we said that we are also running a Train the Trainers program so that the women from the Sukhbhumi team our partner NGO on ground, can actually share the system forward. When she took up the project, her mother-in-law and father-in-law thought that this is just something like she keeps doing something like this. We don't know what's going to happen. Now she's trying to do it on this little 2,000 square feet of land. And they were like, okay, we'll just see. But in as close as about 2 to 3 months after the forest was planted, they completely are now hands-on. Mom-in-law, father-in-law have become a part of it. And the mother-in-law told us the other day that she said, this is a leafy green vegetable, the amaranth vegetable. Leafy greens of the amaranth. She said, I really love eating it, but I never buy it because I'm the only one in the house who likes to eat it. And now that there's so much of it growing, I just go pluck, cook it and eat it whenever I want to. And they even said that they love spending, even if it's 15 minutes a day or 2 hours a day, whatever free time, they spend really tending to the food forest space. So that it has been really heartwarming for us to see. And this is a story that is kind of repeated with a lot of the several of the farmers actually who we worked with, where the families really got convinced after seeing what happened on the site. And so we do believe that this is a system that is small. It's important to work in small space because the farmers have so little land. So for them to experiment with something and see the result, the 2,000 square feet really works for them. And we're hoping to move it onwards to become an even more economically sustainable model, and ecologically, of course, it is definitely having an impact. That's it. Thank you.
So much. So inspiring to see your images after 18 months of working together and what you've achieved in that time. Let's move on to Duhita, to Arnima, the last of our presenters, and then we will carry on for a while for questions for anyone who's able to stay with us.
Hi everyone, this is Arnima representing Tarun Bharat Sangh. So the project was building climate change resilience for rural communities. Tarun Bharat Sangh was established in 1975 under the leadership of waterman Rajendra Singh. As a mission, we are reviving nature, creating livelihoods and strengthening communities. And we've been working on water conservation since 1975 in parts of India, including Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Haryana states. As of now, we are focusing on more than 4 SDGs, SDG 2, 6, 13 and 15. Regenerosity and Tarun Bharat Sangh joined hands for 2 reasons. First was enhancing the capacity of indigenous communities in water conservation and implementing landscape rainwater harvesting system and creating efficient models for water use efficiency. We are working in Rajasthan as a part of Regenerosity project. We've been working in Dholpur district of Rajasthan. It is one of the aspirational district list, which means that it has very poor socioeconomic conditions. We've been working for 5 villages as a part of Regenerosity project. A brief overview of the area. 70% of the total population is dependent on agriculture. Rainfall is around 669 mm, and the temperature is around 45 degrees Celsius, and it goes even up during the summer seasons. And the area has semi-arid climatic conditions. Groundwater is overexploited and is depleting very fast. And it is predicted that by 2040, 44% of the wells are supposed to go dry in the region. The major problem in the area was water scarcity, which was, the main consequences of water security was depletion of groundwater, illegal mining, deforestation in the area, and which resulted in youth moving to, they are joining bandit groups in the region. They are involving themselves in sandstone mining, very poor socioeconomic conditions. The women life has a serious drudgery, and the girls in the area just drop out of schools just to fetch water from the nearby areas. And because of this illegal mining and all, the socioeconomic conditions are very poor. Silicosis, a disease, is very common in the area. And also malnutrition, deforestation is persisting in that region. So our theory of change, we wanted to build, climate change resilient communities. So the major inputs involve financial support, experts, human resource, multi-stakeholder dialogues, and technical assistance from our local team. The interventions, we would love to divide our interventions into two parts. One was mobilization and other was ecosystem regeneration. As a part of mobilization, we had educational visit for the farmers whom we were working with. The next was farmers awareness seminar. And as a part of ecosystem regeneration, we constructed 9 rainwater harvesting structures and installation of sprinkler irrigation system. The direct outputs of the intervention was we trained 55 farmers in our exposure visit. 170 farmers participated in awareness seminar where they came on a common platform and discussed the water-related issues in their region. Also, as a part of community mobilization, we painted 30 walls with slogans, which generally revolved around water conservation and efficient irrigation practices, which a farmer could take up in the region. And we were happy to share that we created 75 million liter of additional water storage capacity in the region in the past 1 year. Also, 25 farmers were equipped with sprinkler irrigation technique. The major outcome which we were able to achieve were people were really concerned for the environment and their awareness increased on water conservation. We were able to create water security for villagers and animals. We were able to strike ecological balance. We believe that somewhat the drudgery of women and girls have been reduced in the area. And through these mobilization activities, we were able to build a conversation between the local administration and the communities so that they can work together for achieving the climate resilience. And the overall impact was climate resilient and water secure community in the region. The impact achieved so far was additional storage capacity of 75 million liter created, 25 farmers equipped with efficient irrigation technique, 250 hectares of land will be benefited from this intervention, water security for almost 24,000 animals, 225 farmers mobilized on ecological regeneration, and we benefited directly 3931 households. These are some of the images from Farmers Awareness Seminar. This is a common platform where they share issues with the local stakeholders, with the members at policy levels. This is from educational visit. You can see that women are discussing their issues regarding water. One of our community members is, training them at rainwater harvesting, like what is the mechanism of this. These are from the wall paintings. It basically revolves that in case the water is not saved, the condition of the environment will go worse. This is from the rainwater harvesting structure. So you can see initial construction and then after monsoon, what was the condition of the region. So these are some of the pictures. This is from the installation of sprinkler at the irrigation site. I would love to share a video.
गुदा मेरा नाम
गांव
मोथारा।
अच्छा, आप किसान भ्रमण में गई?
हाँ भ्रमण गए।
तो वैसे सीख कर आपने क्या किया?
जहाँ पोखर बनवाई फिर मैंने दुनिया के।
अच्छा, वह पोखर का काम
वैसे क्या है पोखर बिना पहले हम ताल पोखर तुमने बनवाई तो मैंने बिन देखे आया।
अच्छा,
फिर बिन देख के वहाँ से बनवाई उन्होंने।
वह बनवाई है।
Thank you. That was fantastic and lovely to end with your video. We have 10 minutes left scheduled, and I think we'll stay behind a little longer to make time for questions and networking. Sanjana, it would be lovely to hear from you too, if you're able to join in with the questions. And we have one question already in the chat box, which I'll ask while we're waiting for others to come in, which is for all of you as presenters, which is around whether there was any local investment, either from farmers themselves or from local funds. And of course, the obvious big question, what do you see is the potential for upscaling some of these techniques that you've used in your region? So I'm going to address that to all 4 of you, 5 of you, and Sanjana, all 6 of you. Please come in, and anyone else, do put your questions in the chat box or raise your hand and we can bring you in.
So with regard to investment from the local farmers, I would say that their trust is a huge investment. Because for them, it's they survive on a day-to-day basis. And for them to trust and say, hey, a part of our land for you all to experiment with and see where we can go from this. So the trust and the land they give of their own accord, I would say that is an investment from their side. And in scaling, I feel like all the 4 projects have a very, the outline of each activity is so clear. And there's also something that we did part of Regenerosity, which is we had the monitoring and evaluation sheet that we filled up every month. Initially, I did not see the value of this. I was also like, oh, that's a lot of work, work. But at the end of the year, we realized we had so much of documented knowledge. Each of the activities we have like start to finish of how to go about it. So it's definitely scalable. And also the activities are also more of tools which can be changed according to the region's climate, or so it's not region specific. It can be upscaled in that sense.
Does anyone else want to come in on that? Komal.
You know, in terms of, I think, like what a lot of us are trying to do through these projects is to enable some members of the local community themselves who can understand the systems that we're working with really well, so that then the dissemination of information from in a peer-to-peer kind of a way becomes really easier for them to do that, where we can just provide them with some basic toolkits and some basic understanding. Once they've gone through the process with us, then they are actually enabled to take it forward on their own. And I think definitely over the next few years, we would be able to see farmers across the various projects being able to take this forward themselves and spreading the system, because as each one gets convinced, and then there are 5 or 10 more around them who see what they're doing and then also want to come on board and be able to execute something like that. So we do see it as an easy to scale way in that sense, that definitely enabling the local community themselves. It's it's a tentpole for all of the projects that are here today.
Preeti, go ahead.
Yeah, that's really well put well by Komal and also Duhita. Here I would like to say is that when you talk about upscaling, it's in both, vertically also and horizontally also. So horizontally is wherever you are at the regional scale, So in that case, for example, our Seeds of Hope Gardens of Hope with Regenerosity, we've been through where we don't have just the 50 farmers training, but then they actually go back and they tell others to join on 2 to 3 hours meeting, and again all of those farmers together actually choose one representative and they send them all the way here, and some of them have for the first time stepped out of their villages actually. So and then they learn here and then they go back. So there's this video, and I'd like to request Juliet, please share the link of the 4th video, where there are interviews of some of these leaders, the trainers who were trained at Navdanya farm. And this lady, so she has some around 400 plus groups of women whom she's going to approach. And those groups total have 4,500 women who are going to be, empowered with all of this knowledge. So another thing about upscaling is like, when we usually look at funds which come, rather than having materials given or given those funds directly, it's always nice to invest those funds into training materials, into training tools. Like we have 2 training tools which came out of our partnership with Regenerosity, and these training tools could actually be shared with lots of farmers at different meetings which happen. People could actually, because it's freely available, people could actually take pictures or have it on WhatsApp and things like that. So that thing is also there. And then when we talk about the vertical upscaling thing, so we have had these meetings at the regional level, and I think not just at the regional level, these meetings go further down into the villages, and then they come up to the regional level, and from the regional level to the national level. And that's how I think a regenerative movement can flow. And then obviously from a national, we can have, let's say, a continental level, or let's say the global level of upscaling of these kind of trainings. And when there should be an outline which people can actually twist and turn slightly according to their needs. Thanks.
Thanks, Preeti. Just to add for the benefit of participants that all the people who presented here have been working on videos to tell the story of their project. Those videos will be available eventually on the Re-Alliance website, but Preeti has requested that the link to one of them be sent with the notes from this webinar. We can do that for you. And we will also be working with all 4 projects to look at how to create or publicize the learning materials that they've produced locally, to share the information they've developed and the learning they've developed more broadly with the Re-Alliance membership and also beyond that. We have another question for you, which is linked to the last one, which is how you convince local leaders, funders and stakeholders to make these big changes. You talked about the trust of farmers and the farmers investing their trust, but how do you convince local leaders? And as women, many of you also from women-led organizations, has that been an advantage or a disadvantage in taking this work forward? Who'd like to kick off with that?
I think for us, it's definitely, we see a big, it's a fantastic positive change working with the women, because I think they are just natural multitaskers and they think on their feet, and it's something that we've really seen. They take it like 10 steps forward. They're already ready to share a system much more. They look into it, the practicals of it. And that's really important, because they look at it, especially for the project we're working in, they're literally looking at it from all aspects of it. Whether it's health and nutrition, whether it's ecologically, whether it's the income generation. So this is something we see. Of course, we do want more and more of the men to be a part of it. But because we're working on such a small area, and it's also the women who can make a difference. They're working on such small areas. It's usually in the larger landscape, it's the men who make the decisions for the larger areas of the land. So for us, it's really important that the women also become almost equal stakeholders in the decision making, and then the success of a project or them showing that this is working, allows for this to become, shared in a much larger landscape, and for the men also, for the, all the males of all the different households and all them to also believe in the system and want to, spread the.
Thanks, Aparna. Does anybody want to add? Yes, Sanjana, go ahead. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, I hope you're able to hear me now. I rejoined. Yeah. So I can bring up a point how to convince funders specifically or participation from them, what has worked or has been working with different organizations, especially women-led organization, which we have been hearing in our peer learning circles as well, or the individual interaction is. One thing is these like telling them the real story of the ground realities, right? The way Preeti told about how suicide has been an issue and why it has been an issue, and that coming itself from the community rather than Preeti convincing those funders, saying this is what people have been talking about it, and this is a real issue to solve and to invest on. Similarly, in parts of Rajasthan, drought or water has been a biggest issue for us living in India. So, how do you bring that partner on the ground for field visits? Is something Tarun Bharat Sangh or other organizations have been doing, so that they see those problems from on the ground by themselves rather than reading on the reports, and they speak to the farmers. So. Um, Realizing that they also are human beings and they also would love to come on the field, and then that is a time when they will realize where to invest funds on. That has worked for us in the past year. And they not being the funders or donors, they being our partners, the way Regenerosity or Re-Alliance or other partners have been together in this journey, like bringing them onto the same space is something that is one of the achievements over here.
Thank you, Sanjana. Preeti, go ahead.
Yes. So just as Sanjana pointed out, that yes, we need to have more clear stories from the ground, from the people. And another thing is, which we here at Regenerosity peer learning circles have been doing, is discussing and talking with each other at a more informal level to understand the stories on each other's sides, and also the story not just coming from the ground or only coming from the ecologists, or let's say from an official from Navdanya or an official from some other organization, but an integrated story. So that actually there's a network. So when you build up stories and based on that, because they are more stronger and they are much more effective when it goes to the funder. That's what I feel. Because just relying on the story from a farmer, you'll get his story or from his or her point of view, but then, and they do not have much of the resources, or let's say the time, usually it's the time available to go and see what is actually happening at the global level. How are, let's say, for example, the multinationals planning to, look at their own economic growth and have the farmers down the drain, ripped off all of their economic income which comes to them. So having that integrative story is really important, and it really helps. I mean, I didn't get time, but I'm sure the presentation will be shared. You can see at the end of the presentation, there is a slide with simple bar graphs showing we had a survey and we spoke to farmers, and we saw, we got the information right from them and had it in a graph, and it was much more appealing for the other farmers, and it was an eye-opener for them that yes, BT cotton actually has huge expenses and the income is almost to nothing. While even if the native cotton varieties have less production, but then the investment of growing those native cotton is much, much less. And at the end of the day, you have much more income coming in from growing native cotton than growing BT cotton. So these kinds of things where you have integrative approach. And it's nice to have someone like Regenerosity who encourages this. And because we have been sharing our experiences all through, I mean, I'm sure each of us can actually tell something about the other, like, oh, this is what I learned from this particular group or this particular team. So yeah, integrating all of us or all these different levels at every stage really helps to bring out a better story, which Sanjana has also pointed out.
Any more questions? Yes, Duhita.
I also want to add that a lot of us who are working on the ground find it almost difficult to really look at what a great impact we have. It's like we're almost a little shy to look at that. And like somebody in the chat said, hey, you know, like composting or mulching also reduces carbon emission. That also is, you should count as a benefit for the project. So if we start documenting the kind of impact that the work we do has, so we with, I mean, the rural communities are actually doing the work so that the rest of the world can survive in climate change. So I think we need to be a lot more vocal. First of all, we need to look at, hey, you know, the kind of work we're doing is amazing. And I think once we accept that and then we put it out there and we start documenting even the tiniest little impacts, we see that it's so large, and that's enough to convince people that it's something that's worth funding. Yeah.
Arnima, did you want to add?
I think more or less it has been covered with my other team members, but I would like to add one point over here that each and every one of us learned something or the other from the peer learning circles. Tarun Bharat Sangh, which has been working since 47 years just on water conservation, we are really getting in touch with James that how can we include permaculture thing in our thing? So I think that was the biggest eye opener from this Regenerosity project. And also I would like to say that when it comes to the local stakeholders, like how do we involve them and all? So it's just that we just need to, you know, showcase the real thing from ground. When the people who have been benefited from our past experiences, when they speak for us, when in our absence also, it's just that they have like confidence in us. They have like the thing that whatever we've been doing, it's just that their decision has been taken into account. We take each and every one of them into account. Like the decision making process should be decentralized, and it plays a very crucial role to take any to replicate, to scale any project. I just feel that.